The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky. I skimmed ahead a little bit. Part 3 it's got some stuff. Just, you're already here on the ride. You already know what to expect. So just buckle up. Here we go. I own no rights. This is for entertainment purposes. January 4th, 1992. Dear friend, I'm sorry for that last letter. To tell you the truth, I don't really remember much of it, but I know from how I woke up that it probably wasn't very nice. All I remember from the rest of that night was looking all over the house for an envelope and a stamp. When I finally found them, I wrote your address and walked down the hill past the trees to the post office because I knew that if I didn't put it in a mailbox that I couldn't get it back from, I would never mail the letter. It's weird how important it seemed at the time. Once I got to the post office, I dropped the letter into the mailbox, and it felt final and calm. Then I started throwing up, and I didn't stop throwing up until the sun came up. I looked at the road and saw a lot of cars, and I knew that they were all going to their grandparents' house, and I knew a lot of them would watch my brother play football later that day, and my mind played hopscotch. My brother, football, Brad, Dave and his girlfriend in my room, the coats, the cold, the winter, autumn leaves, don't tell anyone, you pervert, Sam and Craig, Sam, Christmas, typewriter, gift, Aunt Helen, and the trees kept moving. They just wouldn't stop moving. So I laid down and made a snow angel. The policeman found me pale blue and asleep. I didn't stop shivering from the cold until a long time after my mom and dad drove me home from the emergency room. Nobody got in trouble because these things used to happen to me when I was a kid when I was seeing the doctors. I would just wander off and fall asleep somewhere. Everyone knew I went to a party, but nobody, not even my sister, thought it was because of that. And I kept my mouth shut because I didn't want Sam or Patrick or Bob or anyone to get in trouble. But most of all, I didn't want to see my mother's face, and especially my father's, if they heard me say the truth. So I didn't say anything. I just kept quiet and looked around, and I noticed things. The dots on the ceiling, or how the blanket they gave me was rough, or how the doctor's face looked rubbery, or how everything was a deafening whisper when he said that maybe I should start seeing a psychiatrist again. It was the first time a doctor ever told that to my parents with me in the room. And his coat was so white. And I was so tired. All I could think through the whole day was that we missed my brother's football game because of me, and I really hoped my sister thought to tape it. Luckily, she did. We got home and my mom made me some tea, and my dad asked me if I wanted to sit and watch the game, and I said yes. We watched my brother make a great play, but this time, nobody really cheered. All corners of all eyes were on me. And my mom said a lot of encouraging things about how I was doing so well this school year, and maybe the doctor would help me sort things out. My mom can be quiet and talk at the same time when she's being positive. My dad kept giving me love pats. Love pats are soft punches of encouragement that are administered on the knee, shoulder, and arm. My sister said that she could help me fix up my hair. It was weird to have them pay so much attention to me. What do you mean? What's wrong with my hair? My sister just kind of looked around, uncomfortable. I reached my hands up to my hair and realized that a lot of it was gone. I honestly don't remember when I did it, but from the look of my hair, I must have grabbed a pair of scissors and just started cutting without strategy. Big chunks of it were missing all over the place. It was like a butcher's cut. I hadn't looked at myself in the mirror at the party for a long time, because my face was different and frightened me, or else I would have noticed. My sister did help me trim it up a bit, and I was lucky because everyone in school, including Sam and Patrick, thought it looked cool. Chic was Patrick's word. Regardless, I decided to never take LSD again. Love always, Charlie. January 14th, 1992. Dear friend, I feel like a big faker because I've been putting my life back together and nobody knows. It's hard to sit in my bedroom and read like I always did. It's even hard to talk to my brother on the phone. His team finished third in the nation. Nobody told him we missed the game live because of me. I went to the library and checked out a book because I was getting scared. Every now and then things would start moving again, and sounds were bass-heavy and hollow, and I couldn't put a thought together. The book said that sometimes people take LSD and they don't really get out of it. They said that it increases this one type of brain transmitter. They said that essentially the drug is 12 hours of schizophrenia, and if you already have a lot of this brain transmitter, you don't get out of it. I started breathing fast in the library. It was really bad because I remembered some of the schizophrenic kids in the hospital when I was little. And it didn't help that this was the day after I noticed that all the kids were wearing their new Christmas clothes, so I decided to wear my new suit from Patrick's school, and was teased mercilessly for 9 straight hours. It was such a bad day. I skipped my first class ever and went to see Sam and Patrick again. "Looking sharp, Charlie," Patrick said, grinning. "Can I have a cigarette?" I said. I couldn't bring myself to say bum a smoke. Not for my first one. I just couldn't. "Sure," said Patrick. Sam stopped him. "What's wrong, Charlie?" I told him what was wrong, which prompted Patrick to keep asking me if I had a bad trip. No, it's not that." I was getting really upset. Sam put her arm around my shoulder and she said she knew what I was going through. She told me I shouldn't worry about it. Once you do it, you remember how things looked on it, that's all. Like how the road turned into waves, and how your face was plastic and your eyes were 2 different sizes. It's all in your mind. That's when she gave me the cigarette. When I lit it, I didn't cough. It actually felt soothing. I know that's bad in a health class way, but it was true. "Now focus on the smoke," Sam said. And I focused on the smoke. "Now that looks normal, doesn't it?" "Uh-huh," I think I said. "Now look at the cement on the playground. Is it moving?" "Uh-huh." "Okay. Now focus on the piece of paper that's just sitting there on the ground." And I focused on the piece of paper that was sitting on the ground. "Is the cement moving now?" "No, it's not." "From there you go, you're going to be okay, to you probably should never do acid again." Sam went on to explain what she called the trance. The trance happens when you don't focus on anything and the whole big picture swallows and moves around you. She said it was usually metaphoric, but for people who should never do acid again, it was literal. That's when I started laughing. I was so relieved, and Sam and Patrick smiled. I was glad they started smiling too, because I couldn't stand there looking so worried. Things have stopped moving for the most part ever since. I haven't skipped another class. And I guess now I don't feel like a big faker for trying to put my life back together. Bill thought my paper on The Catcher in the Rye, which I wrote on my new old typewriter, was my best one yet. He said I was developing at a rapid pace and gave me a different kind of book as a reward. It's On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I'm now up to about 10 cigarettes a day. Love always, Charlie. January 25th, 1992. Dear friend, I feel great. I really mean it. I have to remember this for the next time I'm having a terrible week. Have you ever done that? You feel really bad and then it goes away, and you don't really know why. I try to remind myself when I feel great like this that there will be another terrible week coming someday, so I should store up as many great details as I can, so during the next terrible week, I can remember those details and believe that I'll feel great again. It doesn't work a lot, but I think it's very important to try. My psychiatrist is a very nice man. He's much better than my last psychiatrist. We talk about things that I feel and think and remember. Like when I was little, and there was this one time I walked down the street in my neighborhood. I was completely naked, holding a bright blue umbrella, even though it wasn't raining, and I was so happy because it made my mom smile. And she rarely smiled. So she took a picture, and the neighbors complained. This other time, I saw a commercial for this movie about a man who was accused of murder, but he didn't commit the murder. A guy from MASH was the star of the movie. It's probably why I remember it. The commercial said that the whole movie was about him trying to prove that he was innocent and how he could go to jail anyway. That scared me a lot. It scared me how much it scared me. Being punished for something you did not do, or being an innocent victim. It's just something that I never want to experience. I don't know if it's important to tell you all this, but at the time it felt like a breakthrough. The best thing about my psychiatrist is that he has music magazines in his waiting room. I read an article about Nirvana on one visit, and it didn't have any references to honey mustard dressing or lettuce. They kept talking about the singer's stomach problems all the time, though. It was weird. Like I told you, Sam and Patrick love their big song, so I thought I'd read thought I'd read it to have something to discuss with them. In the end, the magazine compared him with John Lennon from the Beatles. I told that to Sam later, and she got really mad. She said he was like Jim Morrison if he was like anybody, but really, he isn't like anybody but himself. We were all at the Big Boy after Rocky Horror, and it started this big discussion. Craig said the problem with things is that everyone is always comparing everyone with everyone, and because of that, it discredits its people, like in his photography classes. Bob said that it was all about our parents not wanting to let go of their youth, and how it kills them when they can't relate to something. Patrick said that the problem was, since everything has already happened, it makes it hard to break new ground. Nobody can be as big as the Beatles because the Beatles already gave it context. The reason they were so big is that they had no one to compare themselves with, so the sky was the limit. Sam added that nowadays a band or someone would compare themselves to the Beatles after the second album, and their own personal voice would be less from that moment on. What do you think, Charlie? I couldn't remember where I heard it or read it. I said maybe it was in This Side of Paradise by F. Scott Fitzgerald. There's a place near the end of the book where the main kid is picked up by some older gentleman. They are both going to an Ivy League homecoming football game, and they have this debate. The older gentleman is established. The kid is jaded. Anyway, they have this discussion, and the kid is an idealist in a temporary way. He talks about his restless generation and things like that. And he says something like, "This is not a time for heroes, because nobody will let that happen." This book takes place in the 1920s, which I thought was great because I suppose the same kind of conversation could happen in the Big Boy. It probably already did with our parents and grandparents. It was probably happening with us right now. So I said I thought the magazine was trying to make him a hero, but then later somebody might dig up something to make him seem less like a person. And I didn't know why, because to me he's just a guy who writes songs that a lot of people like, and I thought that was enough for everyone involved. Maybe I'm wrong, but everyone at the table started talking about it. Sam blamed television. Patrick blamed government. Craig blamed the corporate media. Bob was in the bathroom. I don't know what it was, and I know we weren't really trying to accomplish anything, but it felt great to sit there and talk about our place in things. It was like when Bill told me to participate. I went to the homecoming dance like I told you before, but this was much more fun. It was especially fun to think that people all over the world were having similar conversations in their equivalent of the Big Boy. I would have told the table that, but they were really having fun being cynical, and I didn't want to ruin it. So I just sat back a little bit and watched Sam sitting next to Craig, and tried not to be too sad about it. I have to say that I couldn't do it very successfully. But at one point, Craig was talking about something, and Sam turned to me and smiled. It was a movie smile in slow motion, and then everything was okay. I told this to my psychiatrist, but he said it was too soon to draw any conclusions. I don't know. I just had a great day. I hope you did, too. Love always, Charlie. February 2nd, 1992. Dear friend, On the Road was a very good book. Bill didn't ask me to write a paper on it because, like I said, it was a reward. He did ask me to visit him in his office after school to discuss it, which I did. He made tea, and I felt like a grown-up. He even let me smoke a cigarette in his office, but he urged me to quit smoking because of the health risks. He even had a pamphlet in his desk that he gave me. I now use it as a bookmark. I thought Bill and I were going to talk about the book, but we ended up talking about things. It was great to have so many discussions back to back. Bill asked me about Sam and Patrick and my parents, and I told him about getting my license and talking in the Big Boy. I also told him about my psychiatrist. I didn't tell him about the party, or my sister and her boyfriend, though. They're still seeing each other in secret, which my sister says only adds to the passion. After I got through telling Bill about my life, I asked him about his. It was nice, too, because he didn't try to be cool and relate to me or anything. He was just himself about it. He said that he studied undergraduate work at some college in the West that doesn't give grades, which I thought was peculiar, but Bill said it was the best education he ever got. He said he'd give me the brochure when the time was right. After he went to Brown University for graduate school, Bill traveled around Europe for a while, and when he came home, he joined Teach for America. When this year is over, he thinks he's going to move to New York and write plays. I guess he's still pretty young, though, although I admit it would be rude to ask him. I did ask if he had a girlfriend, though, and he said he didn't. He seemed sad when he said it, too, but I decided not to pry, because I thought that would be too personal. Next, he gave me my next book to read. It's called Naked Lunch. I started reading it when I got home, And to tell you the truth, I don't know what the guy is talking about. I would never tell Bill this. Sam told me that William S. Burroughs wrote the book when he was on heroin and that I should go with the flow. So I did. I still have no idea what he was talking about, so I went downstairs to watch television with my sister. The show was Gomer Pyle, and my sister was very quiet and moody. I tried to talk to her, but she just told me to shut up and leave her alone. So I watched the show for a few minutes, but it made even less sense to me than the book, so I decided to do my math homework, which was a mistake because math has never made any sense to me. I was just confused all day. So I tried to help my mother in the kitchen, but I dropped the casserole, so she told me to read in my room until my father came home, but reading is what started this whole mess in the first place. Luckily, my father came home before I could pick up the book again, but he told me to stop hanging on his shoulders like a monkey because he wanted to watch the hockey game. I watched the hockey game with him for a while, but I couldn't stop asking him questions about which countries the players are from, and he was resting his eyes, which means he was sleeping but didn't want me to change the channel. So he told me to go watch television with my sister, which I did, but she told me to go help my mother in the kitchen, which I did, but then she told me to go read in my room, which I did. I've read about a third of the book now, and it's pretty good so far. Love always, Charlie. February 8th, 1992. Dear friend, I have a date for the Sadie Hawkins dance. In case you didn't have one of those, it's the dance where the girl asks the boy. In my case, the girl is Mary Elizabeth, and the boy is me. Can you believe it? I think it started when I was helping Mary Elizabeth staple the latest issue of Punk Rocky on Friday before we went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Mary Elizabeth was so nice that day. She said that it was the best issue we'd ever had for 2 reasons, and both of those reasons were mine. First of all, it was in color, and second, it had the poem that I gave Patrick in it. It really was a great issue. I think I'll even think so when I'm older. Craig included some of his color photographs. Sam included some underground news on some bands. Mary Elizabeth wrote an article about how the Democratic candidates... Just about the Democratic candidates, my bad. Bob included a reprint of a pro-hemp pamphlet, and Patrick made this fake coupon advertising a free blowjob for anyone who buys a smiley cookie at the Big Boy. Some restrictions apply. There was even a nude photograph, from the back, of Patrick, if you can believe it. Sam had Craig take the picture. Mary Elizabeth told everyone to keep it a secret that the photograph was Patrick, which everybody did, except Patrick. All night he kept yelling, "Flaunt it, baby, flaunt it!" which is his favorite line from his favorite movie, The Producers. Mary Elizabeth told me she thought that Patrick asked her to put the photograph in the issue so Brad could have a photograph of him without it being suspicious, but he wouldn't say for sure. Brad bought a copy without even looking at it, so maybe she was right. When I went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show that night, Mary Elizabeth was really mad because Craig didn't show up. Nobody knew why, not even Sam. The problem was, nobody was there to play Rocky, the muscular robot. Not quite sure what he is. After looking around at everybody, Mary Elizabeth turned to me. "Charlie, how many times have you seen the show?" 10. "Do you think you can play Rocky?" "I'm not cut and hunky." "It doesn't matter. Can you play him?" "I guess." "Do you guess or do you know?" "I guess." "Good enough." The next thing I know, I was wearing nothing but slippers and a bathing suit, which somebody painted gold. I don't know how these things happen to me sometimes. I was very nervous, especially because in the show, Rocky has to touch Janet all over her body, and Sam was playing Janet. Patrick kept making jokes that I would get an erection. I really hoped this wouldn't happen. Once I got an erection in class and had to go to the blackboard. It was a terrible time, and when my mind took that experience and added a spotlight, and the fact that I was only wearing a bathing suit, I panicked. I almost didn't do the show. But then Sam told me that she really wanted me to play Rocky, and I guess that's all I really needed to hear. I won't go into detail about the whole show, but I had the best time I ever had in my whole life. I'm not kidding. I got to pretend that I was singing, and I got to dance around, and I got to wear a feather boa in the grand finale, which I wouldn't have thought anything of because it's part of the show, but Patrick couldn't stop talking about it. "Charlie in a feather boa! Charlie in a feather boa!" He just couldn't stop laughing. But the best part was the scene with Janet where we had to touch each other. It wasn't the best part because I got to touch Sam and have her touch me. It's the exact opposite. I know that sounds dumb, but it's true. just before the scene, I thought about Sam, and thought that if I touched her in that way on stage and meant it, it would be cheap. And as much as I think I might want to someday touch her like that, I never want it to be cheap. I don't want it to be Rocky and Janet. I want it to be Sam and I. And I want her to mean it back. So we just played. When the show was over, we all bowed together, and there was applause everywhere. Patrick even shoved me in front of the rest of the cast to take my own personal bow. I think this is the initiation for new cast members. All I could think about was how nice it was that everyone applauded for me, and how glad I was that nobody in my family was there to see me play Rocky in a feather boa, especially my dad. I did get an erection, though, but not until later, in the parking lot of the Big Boy. That's when Mary Elizabeth asked me to the Sadie Hawkins dance after she said, "You looked really good in your costume." I like girls. I really do, because they can think you look good in a bathing suit even when you don't. The erection made me feel guilty in hindsight, though, but I guess it couldn't be helped. I told my sister about having a date for the dance, but she was really distracted. Then I tried to ask her advice about how to treat a girl on a date, since I've never been on a date before. But she wouldn't answer. She wasn't being mean. She was just staring off into space. I asked her if she was okay, and she said that she needed to be alone. So I went up and finished Naked Lunch. After I finished, I just laid around in my bed looking at the ceiling, and I smiled, because it was a nice kind of quiet. Love always, Charlie. February 9th, 1992. Dear friend, I have to say something about my last letter. I know that Sam would never ask me to the dance. I know that she would bring Craig, and if not Craig, then Patrick, since Brad's girlfriend Nancy is going with Brad. I think Mary Elizabeth is a really smart and pretty person, and I'm glad that she is my first date ever. But after I said yes, and Mary Elizabeth announced it to the group, I wanted Sam to be jealous. I know it's wrong to want something like that, but I really did. Sam wasn't jealous, though. To tell you the truth, I don't think she could have been happier about it, which was hard. She even told me how to treat a girl on a date, which was very interesting. She said that with a girl like Mary Elizabeth, you shouldn't tell her she looks pretty. You should tell her how nice her outfit is, because her outfit is her choice, whereas her face isn't. She also said that with some girls, you should do things like open car doors and buy flowers. But with Mary Elizabeth, since it's the Sadie Hawkins dance, I shouldn't do that. So I asked her what I should do. And she said that I should ask a lot of questions, and not mind when Mary Elizabeth doesn't stop talking. I said that it didn't sound very democratic, but Sam said she does it all the time with boys. Sam did say that sex things were tricky with Mary Elizabeth since she's had boyfriends before and is a lot more experienced than I am. She said that the best thing to do when you don't know what to do during anything sexual is pay attention to how that person is kissing you and kiss them back the same way. She says that is very sensitive, which I certainly want to be. So I said, "Can you show me?" And she said, "Don't be smart." We talk to each other like that every now and then. It always makes her laugh. After Sam showed me a Zippo lighter trick, I asked her more about Mary Elizabeth. What if I don't want to do anything sexual with her? Just say you're not ready. Does that work? Sometimes. I wanted to ask Sam about the other side of sometimes, but I didn't want to be too personal, and I didn't want to know how deep down. I wish I could stop being in love with Sam. I really do. Love always, Charlie. February 15th, 1992. Dear friend, I don't feel very well because everything is messy. I did go to the dance, and I did tell Mary Elizabeth how nice her outfit was. I did ask her questions, and I let her talk the whole time. I learned a lot about objectification, Native Americans, and the bourgeoisie. But most of all, I learned about Mary Elizabeth. Mary Elizabeth wants to go to Berkeley and get 2 degrees. One is for political science. The other is for sociology with a minor concentration in women's studies. Mary Elizabeth hates high school and wants to explore lesbian relationships. I asked her if she thought girls were pretty, and she looked at me like I was stupid and said, "That's not the point." Mary Elizabeth's favorite movie is Reds. Her favorite book is an autobiography of a woman who is a character in Reds. I can't remember her name. Mary Elizabeth's favorite color is green. Her favorite season is spring. Her favorite ice cream flavor, she said she refuses to eat low-fat frozen yogurt on principle alone, is Cherry Garcia. Her favorite food is pizza, half mushrooms, half green peppers. Mary Elizabeth is a vegetarian and she hates her parents. She is also fluent in Spanish. The only thing she asked me the whole time was whether or not I wanted to kiss her goodnight. When I said that I wasn't ready, she said she understood and told me what a great time she had. She said I was the most sensitive boy she'd ever met, which I didn't understand because really all I did was not interrupt her. Then she asked me if I wanted to go out again sometime, which Sam and I hadn't discussed, so I wasn't prepared to answer it. I said yes because I didn't want to do anything wrong, but I don't think I can do a whole other night of questions. I don't know what to do. How many dates can you go on and still not be ready to kiss? I don't think I will ever be ready for Mary Elizabeth. I'll have to ask Sam about this. Incidentally, Sam took Patrick to the dance after Craig said he was too busy. I guess they had a big fight about it. Finally, Craig said he didn't want to go to some stupid high school dance, since he had already graduated. At one point in the dance, Patrick went to the parking lot to get stoned with his guidance counselor, and Mary Elizabeth was requesting that the DJ play some girl bands, which left Sam and me alone. Are you having a good time? Scratch that. Are you having a good time? Sam didn't answer right away. She just kind of looked sad. Not really. Are you? I don't know. This is my first date, so I don't know what to compare it to. Don't worry. You'll do fine. Really? You want some punch? Sure. With that, Sam left. She really did look sad, and I wished I could have made her feel better, but sometimes I guess you just can't. So I stood alone by the wall and watched the dance for a while. I would describe it to you, but I think it's the kind of thing where you have to be there, or at least know the people. But then again, maybe you knew the same people when you went to your high school dances, if you know what I mean. The one different thing about this particular dance was my sister. She was with her boyfriend, and during a slow song it looked like they had a huge fight because he stopped looking at her, and she rushed off the dance floor to where the bathrooms are. I tried to follow her, but she had too much of a head start. She never came back to the dance, and eventually her boyfriend left. After Mary Elizabeth dropped me off, I went into the house and found my sister crying in the basement. This was a very different kind of crying. It kind of frightened me. I talked very quiet and slow. Are you okay? Leave me alone, Charlie. No, really. What's wrong? You wouldn't understand. I could try. That's a laugh. That's really a laugh. Do you want me to wake up Mom and Dad then? No. Well, maybe they could. Charlie, shut up, okay? Just shut up! That's when she really started crying. I didn't want to make her feel worse, so I turned to leave her alone. That's when my sister started hugging me. She didn't say anything. She just hugged me tight and wouldn't let go. So I hugged her back. It was weird, too, because I've never hugged my sister. Not when she wasn't forced to, anyway. After a while, she calmed down a bit and let go. She took a deep breath and brushed off the hair that was sticking to her face. That's when she told me she was pregnant. I would tell you about the rest of the night, but I honestly don't remember much about it. It's all a very sad daze. I do know that her boyfriend said it wasn't his baby, but my sister knew that it was. And I do know that he broke up with her right there at the dance. My sister hasn't told anybody else about it because she doesn't want it to get around. The only people who know are me, her, and him. I'm not allowed to tell anyone we know. Not anyone. Not ever. I told my sister that after a while she probably couldn't hide it, but she said she wouldn't let it go that far. Since she was 18, she didn't need Mom or Dad's permission. All she needed was someone to be with her next Saturday at the clinic, and that person was me. It's lucky I got my license now. I said that to make her laugh, but she didn't. Love always, Charlie. I'm going to stop right about there.